Good morning, and welcome to Beware of Spoilers. I am Adam. Now, Beware of Spoilers is not exactly a fitting title for today because we are talking about something before it comes out. And as is the case, anytime we talk about something that is not yet out yet, it is a spoiler-free review. I will not be getting into spoilers. There's also a review embargo on recaps until after the episodes air. So let me just double check. Alright, I just want to make sure. We're talking about Pennyworth. Pennyworth being the Pennyworth the secret or the origin of Batman and Butler. I keep making that mistake because every fucking DC thing is always the secret origin. Like, that's been DC's thing. This is just the origin of Batman and Butler. Now, here's the thing. I think that the show has a similar problem to, we're talking about Andor on a weekly basis, where the question is, why does this show need to exist? And it seems, looking at what this show is, that this was kind of born of the same thought process that led to Agent Carter, that led to the development by Sony of an Aunt May movie of a similar type, where she's a spy. And I get it. I understand where this came from. I don't think the question of, well, how did Alfred Pennyworth meet Thomas Wayne? I don't think that's a question that is necessarily begging 3 seasons of a TV show, to put it mildly. But this season picks up after last season, and we have a bunch of people with enhancements who are out in the field. And, Pennyworth is acting as a bounty hunter, rounding them up and sending them back. And it's a cool idea. I like the idea. Again, I'm just like, well, what the fuck? As I'm watching this show, my only thought is, it's like, who is this for? That's kind of the thing that I was stuck trying to figure out. And I don't want to disparage it. Well, no, that's not fair. I'm going to disparage it as much as I would if I didn't watch it early. And I feel like the issue is not enough is done to make Alfred feel like the same character. Like, yeah, he got the accent. He's doing a very good Michael Caine, and I understand this is supposed to be a prequel for the Alfred we see in Gotham. So I understand that, and I get where this is coming from. I feel like I just can't get my head around the idea of doing this origin story, and then and look, I commend Warner Brothers for taking this show and trying to make it work. I mean, it's laudable that they're doing that. Like, they're giving it that one last chance to make it work. I don't think that the decisions that they're making in this season are necessarily going to do it, because I think part of what made Gotham work, outside of season 1 of Gotham, was bringing in well-known baby versions of villains. Like, you had young Poison Ivy, you had young Mad Hatter, you had young Joker, or Jerome, you had young Mr. Freeze, you had Hugo Strange, you had all of these characters who, iconic Batman villains. And look, you can't have Batman on the show, but we can have all the villains on the show. And I feel like the problem with this is that we don't have that similar thing. And I'm not going to spoil what it is, but there is something in a later episode that's like, oh shit, that's cool. And then you're like, oh. And when I watched it, my first thought was, oh shit, that's cool. And then it was, oh, this is not going to be well received at all. And look, I'm not saying the show is bad, because, look, I've watched Arrow for 8 years. This show kind of scratches that same itch that Arrow did, where it's grounded. It's kind of a procedural, but, you know, not entirely. Like this one is more serialized and more following a story instead of doing the Villain of the Week format, but I think that kind of comes with the fact that it is designed to be a streaming series, not network television. And it's like, if you liked Arrow, if you liked Gotham, you will find something in this that you like. And the action's great. That's the other thing, is that it's like, the action is great. There's a lot of really cool action sequences. They do not shy away from cursing. They do not shy away from extreme, ultra bloody violence. They do not shy away from any of that. So, if you can sit through the show at large around it, then that's fine. But it's like, I don't understand. Like, I don't think we necessarily needed all of this, you know, to happen. And I can appreciate it for what it is, and I think that it's a cool idea. And I feel like I feel part of the problem is it's like Alfred. Like, Alfred's kind of a badass in this show, but I feel like part of the problem is kind of like network television, and I think I had this problem with, like, Rebels, like Star Wars Rebels, where we get this kind of reset at the end of each episode, and it's like, you don't need to do that, because this is not meant for syndication. This is meant to just put on, and then you watch it, and then it's available to stream, and you can watch weekly. And there is this kind of, like, Alfred always has the same kind of cocky attitude, and it's like, I understand that, you know, you're trying to go for that in his character. I get it, but I feel like they go a little bit too, like, it's too much if every episode kind of opens the same, where Alfred gets brought into it in this situation. And it is, you know, it is an interesting thing, and seeing his relationship develop with Thomas Wayne is interesting, but we are now in season 3, and we have yet to see that relationship kind of bloom into, bloom into a full-fledged, you know, partnership, or a deeper friendship beyond just, you know, there is money involved in me helping you out. And look, if he's going to stick around to help Bruce Wayne in the future, I think to an extent you need that. You need that, like, okay, so we are, like, I am here not just because there's money involved. Like, because if there's money involved, I can get more money, almost certainly, going somewhere else and helping someone else, you know, and buttling for them. Like, there are avenues for that. I don't think we've developed their relationship yet. Like, and something does happen where you're like, well, maybe it's that, but, and again, I'm not spoiling it because there's a review embargo on spoilers, and also, I don't want to ruin it for anyone out there who may want to watch the show. I feel like the thing that they do as kind of shorthand for that is not really enough. It's not enough to be like, okay, so we're doing, like, oh, so this happened, so we're automatically best friends now forever. I wore the wrong shoes. I don't think that's nearly enough. And I think that's what this show, like, that's what this show is meant to be. It's the burgeoning friendship and the relationship that happens between Thomas and Martha Wayne. Well, that's already established. And in this season, they're, you know, like, they've always worked with Alfred, but something has to happen that is going to, like, I don't think enough happened, and there's not enough, I don't want to say compassion. I think compassion's the wrong word. But there's not enough that really ties the two together. In a way that's like, I will make this bond to you, not just for your life, but also for the life of your son. And not just for the life of your son, but for the life of your son beyond just, what's it called, beyond just what he, like, as he takes this turn into being, as he takes this turn into being this masked vigilante who's going out on the streets and beating the fuck out of people and getting his ass kicked in return, and I'm here bandaging up his wounds, and it's like, that is something that is far deeper than this show is going into. Like, that is a deep-seated, like, platonic or familial love that this show is not delving into, I don't think. And I feel like that does kind of hurt it a little bit, because it's like, if that's where this show is going, and we're saying this is a prequel to Gotham, like, Gotham ends with Batman going out on his first night. And look, there's been some jokes about the name, and I understand that. The name is ridiculous. I'm not going to say the name isn't ridiculous. I understand what they're trying to do, and this is their last-ditch effort to get people to watch this fucking show. And certainly putting the show initially on Epix did not help the situation in the slightest, because I don't think very many people watched Epix before it became Paramount Network, and I don't think very many people watch the Paramount Network now. I feel like the issue is, I don't think that's going to be the thing that's going to get people to watch it. Because if you get to this point, that's just concerning. If you get to this point and you have not yet watched this show, it is unlikely that going and clicking on this and seeing it is season 3, you're going to be like, oh, let me just jump in right here. And it's not like the show really has an on-ramp for new viewers, and I feel like that's something else that kind of hurts it, considering that the first 2 seasons were on Epix and then moved to HBO Max. It didn't get a huge fanfare when it moved to HBO Max. So the show's being on Epix doesn't exactly give it a huge viewership. And the show, and I'm not saying the show has to every season come up with a way to get new people on. It certainly doesn't hurt you if you come up with a way to make the show as accessible as possible. It's certainly not a bad thing, but for a show like this, with this intent, where we're going to make another attempt to make this show, get an audience, you really should have a way to better bring people in. Because, like, I'm watching the beginning of the first episode, when I watch it, I'm like, oh, this is kind of the same thing they do on the Arrowverse for the opening of seasons, where it's like, if you don't remember 2 years ago where the show ended off, because I think the last season that aired was in 2020, like, if you don't remember that, then you gotta go back and watch it. But it's like, I don't think that the show necessarily gives you a good chance to really catch up. You're kind of, if you're not 100% familiar, you're kind of playing catch up from the beginning. I don't think the show works unless you have that deep, beginning, like that deep love for the material to begin with. And I don't know how deep that bench is in terms of viewership. But time will tell. I mean, the show's not terrible, and I know that I've had a lot of nitpicky things to pick apart with the show. The show is not terrible. And I don't want to make it seem like it is. But I feel like going into the story the way this show has is definitely not something that they necessarily should. Like, I feel like there was definitely ways to make the show better. And if you were a fan of Arrow, if you were a fan of Gotham, if you were a fan of anything like that, you'll probably find something to enjoy in this show. I'm not going to take that away from you. If you were not a fan of any of these things, you may have a hard time. You may have a hard time with getting in and watching this. Some of the effects are also not the best, and look, I understand, small budget, it doesn't bother me as much, but it's just, I feel like there were definitely better decisions to be made the entire way through this show. And again, like I said, with where Gotham had other villains, this show doesn't have a ton of things that you're like, oh, I know what that is. Which, for a show like this, if you're trying to get that, the easiest way to get free publicity is to be like, oh, and here is... And look, I think the fact that it is in continuity with Gotham does kind of cause that. But it's like, oh, and here's a young version of X character. Here's a young version of X character. Like, that kind of thing goes a long way for getting viewers. Because viewers can then, because comicbook.com will run an article, so-and-so showed up this week on Pennyworth. Like, that is an easy way to do that. It's kind of interesting. And it is interesting that the first batch of episodes kind of wraps up in a weird, self-contained kind of way. Where the mystery is still at hand, but all the players have wrapped up their... It is a weird decision, I think. And then to release that in 3 parts is an odd choice. I think they were better off doing 1 a week instead of doing a batch of 3 and then going from there. But Pennyworth will be debuting the first 3 episodes on HBO Max on Thursday the 6th. I believe the article in Smithtown Chronicle listed Friday. That is incorrect. It is the 6th that it will be up. So if you have any desire to watch it, the first 3 episodes will go live then. As always, we will have a discussion of the first 3 episodes more in depth with spoilers at that point. And yeah, I think that's it. So until our next episode, have a great rest of your week.